Hello, and it's preview night here on Wednesday at Doncaster for tonight's doggy action. It kicks off with the 609 for race one, and I thought this was a tough enough A1 grade. It's not the hardest A1 by any means, but it is competitive, I must admit. Nola's Blue Boy's probably got a good makeup. One of the sort of joint favourites had probably with Footfield George. Um, Nola's Blue Boy has been off the card and it was okay last time out, but was beaten by Crying Old Kevin, who renews rivalry here from trap 6. But that was a bit of a surprise more than anything else, and one of his better efforts. He's more of a staying chasey type, really, Crying Old Kevin. But he gets trap 6 again, and Swift Lethal again is another one coming back from being off the card. A bit hit and miss that one for Sean Parker. Has got ability mind. Footfield George will edge in a little bit as well from 4. Travilla Stars, another one of Sean's. He's got 3 in the race and has got the chance to lead, but didn't come home that strong, and has got Left Right Good Night, who's up in grade in trap 2, just edging off a little bit. So all in all, I thought it was a real tough race, a 3-field race, and I had no bet in race 1. There aren't a lot of bets tonight, because a lot of the bets that I did have in mind, someone was sitting on a Bet365 account and pouncing within 2 minutes. So it's probably going to be a watching race meeting tonight. Race 2, I wanted to be with Optic Magic again, another one that was put in very shorter than I made him, and I fancied him last week when he was stepping up from 450s to this 483 metre trip. It's a slightly easier task, really. He's already beaten Ballyboss Sim on the inside and 2 together, who's not a prolific winner by any means, 2 from 39. Distant Storm, likewise, he doesn't seem to be running that well. I think actually they sprinted him a couple of runs back, and he's much better off sprint. He's getting to the third bend, and that's him. But of course, he could get in the way of Optic Magic being drawn just inside that rival. Roy Rovers is a slow breaker that'll run on late, and Kalara Havar is 5.5 years old now, so won't be improving. Back up in trip, decent makeup, but I wasn't sure was good enough. So all in all, again, tough enough race. It's Optic Magic's really, but not at even money. So I didn't have a bet there. Race 3, a nice race. This one, Keedy Rocket stood out. Keedy Rocket's not really a dog I really take too much notice of, but has been off 23 days again, which is, you kind of scratch your head and wonder why a wide runner has had that time off. Ran all right last time and has been run against much better dogs than this. Gets what I'd call a significant drop in grade here, and a good makeup as well, drawn in 6 for Paul Pryor. So again, that was a dog that I thought on the makeup would be a bet. Lo and behold, opens up 9-4, crash bang, well up, it's now 11-10, 10-11, and I couldn't have Keedy Rocket quite that short. I think we'll win the race. Classic Quattro on the inside is running well, but he's significantly up in grade himself. Read the Rules, he's running all right, but a slow breaker that'll run on, and again, probably would prefer to be drawn in red. Groves Alaro's been running all right, but I suppose beating Mustang Harper ahead is nowhere near as good as Keedy Rocket's form. Elm Swallow's an interesting runner, youngster of Sean Parker's, and probably will improve. I would say for a step up in trip would be a better 483 metre bitch, but still learning a trade, and she's very green still, but just watch for maybe for Elms Swallow in the next few weeks. I know bet there. Race 4 is 6:58. An interesting race, this one, in the Pinocchio Jim has been given a real good makeup here. Drawn trap 4, which is where he wants to be. Sometimes he's in 5. I think that's a little bit too far out for him, but he's not always the best of breakers. And I think he only actually just gets 450 as well. But this is an easier task for him. There's not as much speed in the race. His one little negative might be one for Coco, in that she can break from 6 and she will cut in as well at the bend. So if he doesn't get a length clear of her, there might be a bit of pushing and shoving going into the turn. And Pinocchio Jim actually is only 1 from 21. So it's not a brilliant strike rate, but it just looks to be given a really decent opportunity. But again, at the prices, 5-4, just he was much shorter than I made him. I'm going to have a little bet here on Anarchy. Again, not really a dog that I necessarily always want to be with, but he's been dropped in grade here. He's a staying type, a bit chasey himself, but at 13-2, I thought he was just overpriced. I actually made him second in to to Pinocchio Jim. So the safe way here is an each way bet on Anarchy. Kid you not, as a dog that always used to do me a few favours, but he's not really been firing. And again, he's been off 18 days. And you have to say, well, is there something wrong with him? Has he had issues? And he could well have issues. And if he does get a start, he could get into the race. But I'm just going on current form, what we know. And Anarchy has been running really well, running on late in the closing stages. So that was the each way play. You might even just want to back him a place as well. It might be a decent price. But at the 13-2, just in case he does win, I had to have a bit of a win bet on him as well. Moving on to race 5. This is a bet for me. Dathis Rosie. She was bigger as well. I put her up at 9-4. I think she was 130, but she got clipped very, very quickly indeed. But I do make her the most likely winner, just in front of Merlin Sydney. She's met Merlin Sydney twice now, and she's slightly outpaced him twice as well. And she's managed to get herself where she's running the bend and racing the bends. Merlin Sydney quite is looking after himself a little bit, and he hasn't liked the competition going into the turn. So I'm going to have Dathis Rosie here to lead all the way. Eden Bolt is a dog that is a bit hit and miss. I wouldn't want him smashing out and just rubbing us up in the early exchanges. Swift emphasis as a slow breaker in 5. I don't think Jamara Broom is quite good enough. And Runtel Sally is a slow breaker that will just run on late as well. So I didn't think there was a lot of competition for the early lead. As I said, 3's already beaten 1 to the turn on 2 recent occasions. So I'm going to go with Dathis Rosie to make all. That's one of the smaller bets on the card. On to race 6. I nearly backed Trapper Millie here, but again, missed the price. She's a puppy for Diane Cross, not had a lot of starts, but she after a real slow break on her debut, since then she's just starting to learn to trap better. So here there's not a lot of early in the race at all. She has got a real good chance to lead off, and I think if she leads off, she'll be a different greyhound. She looked very green in behind dogs, but I think you could get the improvement, the puppy improvement, when seeing clear daylight in front of her, and she could make a mess of these because it is a moderate B7. The only other dog that you'd say would be capable is Break Day Ebony of winning this race. And she's not actually quite been showing the early pace that I thought she had. And she's been struggling to clear Move Extreme, who's got no early pace. So that's a little bit of a worry. She is fairly strong, and she has been, as I say, because she's dropped into a grade where she can be competitive, she's still finishing off a race as well. So she would be the other runner there. It looks 2 runners. They're priced accordingly. And again, at the prices, I can't recommend a serious bet. On to race 7. Nice sprint, this one. It's a D1. I thought Moving Places was pitched in last week after a bit of a layoff. Went to the bend. The back legs seemed a bit of an issue here for Moving Places. It's really interesting. If you do watch the videos, go back and watch last time out, because I actually had a nibble on her, a massive price. She drifted quite alarmingly for Kathy Lister, and that might be because people think that she needed the run. And she was up there, and she just lost her action slightly. I don't know whether it was the ground. I don't know whether her kennel mate, Nice Places, clipped her back legs, and then she made a meal of it coming out the second bend. But before she went off the card, which was back in November, she did exactly the same thing. I don't know whether there's an issue in her gait, whether they've had problems keeping her sound or not. That obviously could be because she was off the card. But here, if she got any kind of break, and she's already beaten Gentleman's Game in a qualified trial back, the next door neighbour, Crooks Hercules is hit and miss. I think he's the danger, actually, if he does start. Move Over Tommy is another one, hit and miss. But then, of course, he's got to get round Crooks Hercules. Look, Jim the Liar was more of a starter than anything else. And Canturk Sport, although beat Moving Places last week, was rather lucky to do so. And I can understand why Moving Places have been backed here, because 15-2 is ridiculous and made Moving Places sort of 3-1, 7-2 favourite in this race in a wide open contest. But has now come into, again, too short a price. So in the end, it was a no bet. But 1 and 3, I was probably, if you did want to place a small stakes in the sprint in race 7. Moving on to race 8, and again, Penny's Candy looked at a natural selection here. Opened up 7-4. Crash Bang Wallop is now odds on, and I couldn't back her at odds on. She's always a bitch I like, and I think she's a decent sprinter as well. but sometimes she just looks after herself when there's traffic at the first bend. So she doesn't drive the bend. She can sit down a little bit. And again, she's been on and off the card. She did fall over back in December. She was given a month off and she came back with an okay trial, nothing more than that. And again, she went to the bend all right last week, but she just sort of didn't drive it. And then she got dragged back quite dramatically. This race is a much easier assignment. It's sort of dropped from the D2 into a D3, and it's a decent makeup. But again, as I say, odds on, because of that little foible that I've got with her at the first turn, I couldn't be betting her. So I thought the second in was Jamara Cross in track 5. He's running really well. He's come second in his last 2 efforts in reasonable D3s, quality D3s to be fair. So if Penny's Candy did fluff the lines, then I think Jamara Cross could take advantage. And again, I'm playing safe here because he's 6-1. I'm just going to have a small each way bet to minimum stakes. On to race 9, another sprint, tricky enough. It looks a match between the top and bottom. Penny Estrella is another one that's coming back. She's been in season. She's 12 weeks. To be fair, you know, she's had that 10-week break. She had the one trial back. It was an okay effort last time out when she was beaten by Penny 7. Second Kenlin is very, very hit and miss at the start, but he can go wallop, and he hasn't got a lot to clear here. So it was top and bottom. Again, at 6-4, they were well found in the market, the pair of them, and I didn't see there was any value. On to race 10. Again, an interestingly put together race. Dido Bell was disappointed for me last week when we selected her and had a little bet on her. Always runs against Jinx, it seems, and that one switched into 3 from 2. And I just wonder whether Jinx could get a really good break this time and clear Dido Bell once more into the turn. Kilgraney Misty actually cleared the pair of them. She was in 4, now she's in 5. And she went wallop, and she was another one that looks after herself a little bit on the bends, and yet she went wallop and she just cleared and she held on by a short head and beat Jim the Liar on that occasion. I didn't really fancy long range Brody on the outside. All my friends as well is up in class. Canturk Blue is the interesting runner. I keep backing this one from 4, but has been a bit on and off the card and doesn't seem to come out of a box, but is probably well capable if coming away in best fashion. All in all, maybe a tiny bet on track 3 Jinxed if that one's around about a 5-1 chance on the Matchbook Exchange. On to race 11, a D4 grade event. A tough enough race, this one. I was nearly tempted to take on Roisin's Lily at a very short price. She's a quirky character, the 5, Roisin's Lily, but she's got a real big drop in grade here. But she's a slow breaker, or even if she does break, she gets outpaced, but then she kind of chases and runs on late. I nearly put up Lagar Leclerc, because I think this one can crash out the boxes and might be able to clear them before cutting across going into the turn. And Make It a Million's another one that's showing a little bit of early zip. I thought they were the kind of 2 runners maybe, and Roisin's Lily was the other half a runner, because I don't really want to bet Roisin's Lily at 6-4, 7-4. But in the end, I thought it'd kill me if Roisin's Lily come and claim one of them and chinned them on the line. So it was a no bet in the end. On to race 12, and I've got a tiny play here. I'm going to bet Cleese Domino, who can trap smartly from 2, will edge off a little bit, and it will give Titanic Tip a good run to the turn. He's not really a sprinter, and I keep saying this every week when we do these previews. He's had 28 days off again, which you think, why has he had 28 days off? But because he's got a good draw and because it's a drop in grade for him, I've got to save on him at 4-1. So I think I bet 3-1 and 4-1 that pair. Conan's Dream's normally a misbreak dog that will show a little bit of early late. I thought Drunko Yank had it all to do, is a big up in class for him. Burnfoot Tango is a little bit disappointing of late. Probably on his old form, he'd be a runner, but his slow breaks are really costing him. And Midtown Indy, he's just kind of coming back from being knocked over as well. So I didn't think that one had too much of a chance. So we're just going to have a small bet 2 over 1 in the last. Not too many bets because, as I say, a lot of the prices have been taken and they don't really become value anymore. So here's just a rerun then of the bets that we have got. Anarchy, just a 0.2 point of a bet there at 13-2 is decent price, that in the 658. Dahi's Rosie, I think she can lead all the way, 9-4. I wouldn't want to take too much less than that, maybe 2-1. That's 0.4 of a bet. And then I've got Jamara Cross, only because Penny's Candy's got 2 short now in that race, so that's an each way bet. And again, that little play 2 over 1 in the last. Hopefully, we'll find a couple of winners. There's not too much action, but we'll join us again at the weekend for Saturday and Sunday's programmes.